What were you gonna say, busy guy?
No, I'm curious to know what you guys heard. I worked with Jeremy and the CTO of Library a year and a half ago
Yeah.
on a project. We were doing a transition of a company that I was the IT director for, and we were merging all of our social data to Library, which is now Odyssey. So I was curious to hear because I haven't followed it in a while, but I was curious to see where they were at with that case because li-
They failed the Howey test. They are deemed a security, pretty much.
library is deemed security now
Pretty much is what's going to come out of the case. I don't think the case is finalized yet, but
because they've been fighting it longer than Ripple. I mean, they've been fighting it for like
yeah, but their people came out and said things like, "Well, if Bitcoin goes up 10%, we just assume that Library Coin is going to go up 10%," which then people like they did a lot of things that were wrong. So, I would suggest watching Army of Spies this morning. Definitely very in-depth explanation of everything that happened.
that's interesting because the SEC is going to use any kind of outcome of any project as leverage to wage war.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. They did a lot of things that were wrong, right? They Library Coin did. However, the dictation at the very end said even, and this is just an opinion, right? It's not a law. So the judge came out and said, which is a circuit one court, and they said even if Library Coin wouldn't have said the things that they said about it being an investment, since the token was sold and the team kept some, that's enough to say that they thought the coin value was going to go up. So just by the team keeping some.
I see. Now it doesn't
Think
matter.
about that. Now,
It's
now think about that implication for a second. What team in the history of any team building in crypto hasn't kept a token for themselves?
Right. I was just going to say, when the tokenomics comes out for any project, they usually have a pie chart, which identifies in their white paper and visually, what portion of the tokenomics will go to the actual founders or developers. But that being said, there's usually a traditional holding period, that any one director or whatever can sell the token. But again, I think the case that library had before was they did keep some of the token, but the token was used specifically for
It
the
doesn't matter. They said
building.
that does not said the fact that the fact that you think that it's a utility means absolutely nothing. Even if some people bought it to use it in your system, like say it was a jukebox, right? Some people invested in it to use it as a token for the jukebox, but some people took that as, oh, well, you're keeping tokens, so price is going to go up. So I'm going to buy some too. It doesn't matter what the actual this is what this judge is rolling.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter.
So, Mike, let me just be devil's advocate for a second. So, using that analogy, could you say that any cryptocurrency, any of them, could not be deemed a security using those guidelines? Because there's going to be one person in any company that holds some value in the token in which they're. I mean, even well, Bitcoin is
Well,
essentially.
here's the problem, right? Is they're using the Howey test, right? And the Howey test is from whatever year, way
Yeah,
before most of our times, right? Even my time.
yeah.
That's the problem. So that's the issue that we need to get fixed. That's the root of the problem.
When Charles went to Washington, I want to say like 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and he sat down with. I think he sat down with the SEC. He sat down with the another securities commission, and they had a council. And the purpose of this meeting was to establish that the rules and regulations and guidelines that we use to manage securities and stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff are completely irrelevant or not sufficient enough to be used to do the same for crypto. I mean, we need an entirely different system or set of guidelines to regulate cryptocurrency. And this, what you just said to me, the Howey test is so dated that it doesn't even fit into, it's a round in a square peg kind of solution. But I see if they're in the wrong, are they in the wrong based on this outdated test, or are they in the wrong because they purposely and knowledgeably, held token for the increased value and then, used it for their benefit? So that's the, I mean, that's the question.
I wish I had an answer for you, sir.
Yeah,
But
I know. I'm sorry, my brain.
Well, the court said that the fact that something has utility doesn't mean it can also dual purposely be a security as well. They could have both utility and also be a security, right? So given the utility doesn't dispose it of its security status, right? So that was one argument. That was something out of the brief, which I'm sort of reading and skimming right now. Um, and so even against that outdated, which I feel like is the thing that the FCC uses to sue people, that Howey testing, um, just holding the holding the token for yourself, um, without clear demonstrating that you're only using it for the thing you're expecting the public to use it for, right? Especially if you start selling it and not using the quote unquote utility of it. Um, that sort of makes your utility claim wash, right? I mean, if you held it and only used it for the utility that you claim it is, then maybe you have a fighting chance against that Howey standard. Um,
All right.
now, like I said, what this judge put out is just an opinion, right? So that
that's how it works, though, Hero. That all these judges read each
I
other's
know, and
opinion
then
and
they
they try
feed
not
off
to
of
go
that
against each
opinion.
other, right? Like,
They feed off of that opinion to build
um,
precedents, right?
right. So this definite,
Exactly.
and the one thing with this case too, because is going against this other way, right? Now it makes it so even if Ripple wins their case, their win will not be as helpful, right? Because if other persons try to use Ripple case as precedent, um, suddenly there's this other case where it's precedent for
Here's
the other
I got a
side,
I
right?
got a question on that though, Lido. Right? The Ripple case is in which circuit court versus this? Because depending on which court system is higher, one would outrule the other.
Right, right. And I think this was just a district court actually, in somewhere in New England. What are you gonna add while I see where this Ripple case is, Blackjack?
Well, you see what they're doing. So, in essence, what they're trying to do is set the the ground floor, right, for their basis for their argument surrounding what's a security, what's a commodity, what isn't a security, etc. Right, and then what's also happened is that, and this has already happened. Basically, the Ethereum and Bitcoin have both been ruled a commodity in a court ruling, right? So they've already set the precedent there. So what's happened is that those who
Ethereum
are
hasn't been
lobbying,
ruled a commodity.
yeah, yeah.
Who's ruled that?
I can bring it
That's
up
that's
in a
not gone
second
to
here.
court
I can.
yet. I mean, that was just some
Uh,
random guy
Years ago,
at the
years
FCC.
years ago,
it
Lido.
was.
Years
It
ago.
was actually it's a new Senate bill. So the bill's going to go through. Obviously, at this point, it's not written into law yet, but they're already in the process of setting the groundwork for it. Okay. So what's going to happen is that they are going to separate themselves from the pack. That's the goal right now. So that way, whoever's left behind can get eaten by the wolves, which is, let's just call the wolves SEC. So at this point, then it'll start to chew away at every single other altcoin that's out there that is deemed a security, and then they're going to have to follow regulation, which means applying for bankings, all the different stuff that banks have to do on a regular basis in traditional finance, right? So how will that slow everybody down? A shit ton. And that's the goal right now. So if you do not get put into the commodity basket, you're in a world of hurt coming up here, because that's ultimately what they're doing. So the SEC currently is going for whatever they can, all the low-hanging fruit. They're going to go after others in order to set in each court precedent, because then they have a basis of argument going into the next one in whatever other court that they go into, depending on what region or area or whatever the case may be, right? So just know that this is happening and it's going forward. And how is our blockchain preparing for it? Because you need to prepare for it. One, get into the commodity basket. Two, have a underlying argument that will work in court that you can then go for a decision on, which could fucking kill you if that decision goes the wrong way. If you choose to go all the way to, a jury or a grand jury, whatever it is, as far as the decision goes, or the Supreme Court, So, good luck with this. So we need to be prepared, right? I agree with one busy guy. What does this mean? It means a lot, going forward. So.
They were both tried in district courts, by the way. So same.
So let me ask a question, and it has to do with sort of the same idea of library. But so there's a project that I'm working with, and we've been kind of playing around with having a native token for the specific reason of getting out of all the regulations of having a speculative coin, right? So basically, you would use Cardano to buy this, you know, just I want to say like a Facebook token or whatever it is. It's just a method, a calculation of how to then purchase something within the app that runs on the Cardano blockchain. So it's a way to limit the liability of someone who wants to
I would
participate.
suggest not taking anybody's information online for what you're trying to do, and have your team get a lawyer. Period. That's it.
Yeah, I know. It's just like every time we try to be innovative, it just seems like we're crushed by what you can and cannot do from who gets a piece of the pie.
Well,
And
the only way to change that is change the laws, right? So how do we do that? You pressure your senators. Not only when Charlie puts out a tweet and says, "Oh, we have this important vote," everybody should be reaching out to their senators. They're all the time. They're
I
there to work
voted
for
this
you.
morning.
What was that, Hosky?
I
Do
said
you
I
guys sticker
voted
on?
this morning.
Yeah,
You know,
sticker on.
that's important.
So today's also voting in PA. So I'll be going to vote after the show.
Yeah.
Hosky, you
Yeah,
got your
that's
sticker
one of
on
the
your.
biggest things people neglect. Like seriously, get your ass up and go vote. Like
Yes, please.
look into politicians who are pro crypto, look into politicians that aren't trying to just screw everybody else and put themselves, build themselves a higher castle to live on, and go vote. Like seriously, you have a say if you're in the US. And unfortunately, the U.S. is looked at as whatever happens here is likely going to cascade throughout the rest of the world. Also, if you're trying to launch any token without proper legal advice, you're asking for trouble. Um, that's all I'll say on that. Is you really need to have lawyers behind you. It's just better be safe than sorry.
It's kind of funny that you say that, Hosky, because I said, Hosky, look at this. He said, I don't know. I'll just talk to my lawyer. It's
Sir,
the right
that's
answer.
deflation of character,
Yep.
my friend. Okay, stop deflating my character. I will sewer you.
Please sewer me.
There are no lawyers involved that would ruin our image.
Do
Yeah,
not
no lawyers.
express
He said he was
about
going to talk
Hosky
to
if
his
he's
plumber. I'm sorry. It was the plumber, not
The
the
right.
lawyer.
plumber,
His
thank you.
plumber. Yeah, not the lawyer. Jesus. Of course, we all know that plumbers are really good at law.
What's up, Quasar?
Hosky, did you say if you're going to launch any real token to talk to an attorney?
Any token, not real, any token. Like seriously, it's such a gray area that I think a lot of people are going to be caught with their pants down if things continue to go the way we've seen some of the rulings. So any token, you really should be careful, and especially all those projects that are promising you moons, gains, and all that nonsense. Like they're just asking to get sewered.
There's a reason why Hero Token stopped when it stopped.
And there's a
I
reason why
wonder.
freeloaders never sold their token. We
There's
just
a reason
give
why
it
Coco
its
Loco
governance
backed out
token.
of Coco Loco.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
people
matter if
saw
you
the writing
sell
on the
it.
wall.
It doesn't matter if you sell it or not. I don't think at this point. Like, I'm afraid to even, like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to vote, and I'm glad
So,
because a friend of mine is actually running for Senate in PA, and I'm going to go vote for her today. And we've had several conversations on crypto, and I'm hoping to have that. I'm hoping she wins so that I have that line of communication to somebody who is in politics, because I don't really do politics.
Hey, write in Hosky too if you get a chance. Write in Hosky.
don't you think though that so if you prepare yourself enough, at least with what's available information wise, then you should be okay, at least for now. And then as laws change, as precedents are set, you can then shift. But you need to first ensure that you started out as a token that has no value, nor shall it have, or we are suggesting it will have in the future. And then, of course, at the same time, it is meant solely as a voting or governance mechanism. And at that point, ultimately, even if later on they decide it's the case or not, whatever, they're going to go after the largest ones first. And then from there, you can
But
just
here's the
dissolve
scary
all
thing.
that.
Here's the scary thing about that opinion, right? It doesn't. Did anybody on the team keep any freeloaders tokens?
Freeloaders token were distributed free of charge
Was there
to
any
each.
kept by the team? That's what I'm asking you. Was there
Yeah,
any?
Yes.
all of
There,
us. All of
there's
us
your
have them.
answer.
Yeah,
There's your
all of
answer.
us
Yeah,
have
Based
them.
off of that
that's
All
the
of us have
opinion,
them.
trick.
But
That's the trick.
they never sold into the wallet. We
it
never
doesn't.
bought into the
Yeah, it
wallet.
doesn't matter.
The guy said.
Okay, so if we're gonna
I'm not
say if
going to
your
talk to
team,
anybody though.
if your team is holding it, that whole sentence was if your team kept some and used it as a financial instrument, right?
Right.
In the library case. So they sold
Define
Joker, don't
people,
say a word.
financial. Define financial. The word
they
you said.
paid people with it. They sold it, they paid their debts with it, they sold it through MoonPay.
But I think just holding
They,
it means
they,
that you're expecting to gain value, and that's part of the
well,
problem.
I'm
Well,
just
I
talking
not
about
mean,
this
I
Not if
case,
own
it's a
right?
them
governance
depending.
token. How are you supposed to vote?
We're going to go to a system where we raise hands now, because I understand this is everybody wants to put their word in, and I'm no lawyer, so I want to hear everybody's opinion. Lido, you first, sir.
Explicitly, this case, the thing that nailed them on the coffin, in the judge's words, they kept it and used it to pay their bills and stuff. And also, when they launched, it had zero utility, and the evaluation went from 140 million to 1 billion with zero utility. I think that's why Ada was freaking out about utility on day one. Right. So really, that was the thing that nailed them in a company. One, that is sold in the U.S., which puts them in SEC jurisdiction, and then they used it as a financial instrument to pay their bills, to pay their employees, to pay their debts and stuff. Oh, look at all those hands.
Yeah. I think Joker was saying something. I rudely muted him, so if he would like
he
to come
was.
back up, he could talk next. Jenny, I think also you were trying to get a word in edgewise. Jenny, you first, and then Hosky had his hand up
Oh
first.
no, I think I was just like answering something. I have no idea what I was
It
saying,
was
to be
having to
honest.
do with it. She had mentioned me, and having to do with the fact that if the holders of FLZ were paid, the FLZ token, we were not. It was dispersed into our wallet as a voting mechanism only, and then we have not used FLZ to pay for anything. We have used it for those who wish to be part of the governance structure and are willing to do odd jobs or things that require to be done. but they were not paid for it. They were awarded, for FLZ.
Good thing we have volunteer mods that sometimes get random crap thrown at them.
Exactly.
Never use. We give everything away. We don't try to sell it because we don't pay people. We just exploit them.
Exactly. Hosky's way more out front with it than everybody else is, which I absolutely love. But yeah, there is a sense of that no matter what you're doing. I mean, you just got to love what you're doing, I guess,
I mean, if people are willing to be exploited, then just do it.
Exactly. It's not like you're dragging them in. They're actually raising your hand and go, I know, I want to. So, it is what it is there, right?
You heard it here first. All of the Hosky moderators are exploited willingly. So I don't want to hear any complaints, no labor complaints. They're willingly submitting themselves to being exploited.
Well, I don't know. Define pay versus volunteer, because I think that's where it would come down to. Quasar, go ahead. You would
Brian,
not.
where no money is exchanged. That's how it is. So they didn't
Well,
pay
I
any money
mean,
out of their pocket to do that. Or to get the token back. That's
you
how it is.
know,
Yep.
state and federal wage and labor and employment protection laws are much scarier to me than the SEC. Um, so there is that. And I am not going to say what I was going to follow up with on that, but man, I know you're joking, but exploiting people if they're willing, that's not my Tuesday.
You know who I'm really scared of is PETA. That's what we really need to worry about.
Agreed.
Also, to everybody who has a project or you're part of a team of a project, your words matter. So you got to be careful on what's coming out of your mouth because all of that can actually be used against you. So, again, if you're not getting legal advice properly before you launch your next idea that is going to be the next great biggest thing, you're asking for trouble, guys. Like, seriously. It's not something you want to mess around with. It is the Wild West to some extent, but even in the Wild West, they had sheriffs and deputies. You don't want to be the one that is made an example of. So if you do not have proper legal advice, you need to get it. It's not even you should. You definitely need to look into it. And I can't believe I'm saying this from an
Hold on,
dog
Blackjack.
account.
I want to call you out because
Okay, go for it.
you give me shit for interrupting you when you didn't even answer the damn
Yeah.
question, right? Which legal advice was involved in all the decision that freeloaders made? You didn't say.
We just went with what Wyoming was provided.
So not
as
legal
far
advice.
as just their legal advice
Did
that
you
was given
hire
to
a
them to
lawyer?
create Lido. The framework was created by lawyers in the state of Wyoming. It's not
Okay. So
for the LLC.
don't listen to what
Now,
Blackjack say, okay? Just skip the whole Wyoming shit. Hire a lawyer.
Literally, stop taking people's advice on Twitter, guys.
yes,
On Twitter Spaces, go get a freaking lawyer. Don't be a
yeah,
genius.
I'm not
Let's
saying
leave it.
to
Let's leave it at
do
that.
it.
Let's leave it
Okay.
at that. Don't be a genius. Go get a
Correct.
lawyer, and that's all I'll say.
Okay, I just want to finish my thought for one thing. So if you are going to invest in tokens and you're like an investor, not like the average person who sees a token and swaps it for your Cardano, if you're going to invest in a company that just starts, here's two things you should look at: a SAFT or a SAFE. And what these are, there are simple agreements for future tokens or simple agreements for future equity. And these two pieces of documentation are extensive and they cover, it's like, if you were to be maybe, in the gray area, you're not sure, and they come after you for your investment into a unregulated token, this is literally like a 60 to 70 page document which covers everything in the legalese husky, in the legalese terms. But again, still having a lawyer in your background. But if someone comes to you and says, I want you to invest in my company, you go, show me the safe or show me the SAFT. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks, guys.
I would actually tell him, show me the shit.
We've got hands.
Jenny first, and then Joker, and then Quasar.
I was just going to say that also keep in mind that when you're going to purchase tokens from projects that tell you that the token is not available in the US and you selected you're in Canada, you're pretty much already like being advised not to get there for a reason. A lot of these projects, they get legal advice and they know they have to put that up there to protect their butts. It's very easy to bypass it, and a lot of people do it. And this is precisely what you're doing. You're being told that you're about to, and that happens to a lot of projects, like ADA domains, even Equine or and Maker, War Mobile Token. None of those things were available to any of us in the U.S. But it was very easy to bypass it by saying that you lived in Canada, click a little check mark. That's their way of protecting themselves, but telling you that you're not supposed to be doing this. And, just go back to this full circle of personal responsibility and doing your own research and, just putting that out there because it is a gray line and, we make good choices, but that means we might be engaging in illegal stuff and we want to act like we're not because we don't agree with it, but the truth of the matter is that we are.
I disagree.
Yeah, when don't you, Lido?
And that's the
Yeah, come on. Okay, why do you disagree?
Let's keep the hands going.
Joker.
Yeah, Blackrock did such a terrible job responding to that. I feel like
Thank you,
I
Joker. I
have to
appreciate
come
it.
up here and clarify the situation. Lawyers were consulted. Santo keeps a few lawyers on retainer, and he did speak with the lawyers when forming the DAO. So there was legal representation. It wasn't just done all willy-nilly.
Thanks, Joker. Yeah, Black
Man,
Fact. Suck that.
What a party pooper, man. He comes and ruins it. Hey, Joker,
know, what
can
a
you
jerk.
say there was also no investigation, no legal consult on our end? Just lie.
Just consult plumber, like Hoskey.
Just consult the
Yeah,
plumber.
well, I mean, we do have a first-class plumber, so, I mean, I'm sure that qualifies as legal advice.
Thank you. Yes. Always go to your plumber for legal advice, guys. You heard that here first.
And when in doubt and the plumber seems skeptical,
Hey,
go
when
to
a
your
plumber
electrician.
can be an attorney too. I mean, why not?
Absolutely.
Remember, in most states, you just have to pass the stupid test. You don't even have to go to school.
Can we
It's a
talk to
long test, though.
Can I see what I wanted? He had his hand up for like 18 epochs.
Go ahead, Quasar. Give us the random.
No, this is not random. I think, it's going to be random because you all said it a lot and I've been standing here with my hand up for so long. The best advice my attorney gave me was everything is a business decision. So if you're going to make enough money to cover the court cost, fuck it. Right? Like, who cares? And what exactly would need to be done to go to jail?
BitConnect!
you heard.
Hey, that was a business decision.
This was brought to you by the Catalyst Circle.
No. No, it's not.
Red Bull this morning, light up. He had a Red Bull this morning. I'm certain of it.
Man, y'all don't respect hands and conversation at all.
Go ahead, Quasar. Sorry, I was just furthering your case of a business decision. EOS, BitConnect, carry on.
Okay. Attorney also said the best contract to sign is one that can't be enforced if you plan on getting out or breaking that contract. So I have a very, very good attorney. Going to Wyoming to form a LLC to set up a DAO is automatically centralized. We've all had that conversation, but ultimately that's not the DAO in my core opinion, and all of this talk and concern about the SEC and law and all that kind of stuff is so far away from where I want us to be that you all make me very sad today. I want some DGen stuff in here.
There's a leave button. I mean, feel free.
Right.
Quasar, can you say you're proud of me today?
I'm proud of you, Husky, for saying stuff that I don't like, man. The whole moral or the whole exploit thing. Like now I'm gonna get on my moral high horse and gallop. Speaking of Gallup, please vote today and look for the Gallup polls later, which I don't know where those are.
Is the Capital Circle voting today?
Yeah, they already voted. Usually happens 5 minutes after the cock crows, and 3 minutes after
which chicken in which country, so that I know what time to look for the sunrise.
Yo, I am from South Carolina, so it's a gamecock rooster. It's a cock-a-doodle-doo.
Sorry, Quasar.
Did
Go
you say any
Gamecocks.
cockle-do?
I'm not a Gamecocks fan. That's why I muted him.
Better Call Saul.
I had a small stint in South Carolina a few years back. I was there for a while. The weather was interesting. That's all I can say.
So I brought up that drama. I'm going to bring up the next drama. Somebody said on-chain the pause or withdrawals from that centralized exchange have stopped. Yay, Sam, yay.
Which one?
This is your Hosky Minute on Cardano Over Coffee.
Uh-oh.
If you are a genius and have your crypto on an exchange, stop it. Don't be a genius. Take that crypto and pull it off of the exchange, and you can stake it with the many pools on Cardano. This is relating to your ADA. So please, don't be a genius and take your coins off of the exchange, because if they're not your keys, that's not your crypto. And FTX will likely have to liquidate it to pay whatever the debts are. So don't be an idiot. I mean, don't be a genius. This has been your Hosky Minute on Cardano Over Coffee. Get your coins off exchanges.
I like it.
You know what the good thing is they don't sell ADA.
That is true. So most of us here are safe from that mess. And it was interesting that the main guy, like a week ago, a month, like 2 weeks ago, started talking about Cardano, which is hilarious. I guess that was kind of their last ditch effort to maybe bring in some more liquidity. That to me was interesting, not knowing what we know now that's going on.
Hosky, that's not exactly true. Because of the Voyager acquisition, they're going to be in control of 8 billion ADA.
Well, another thing I saw though was that that the reason that they may not even be able to go through with the Voyager thing, because most of their value or their valuation comes from their own token, which is my understanding is very illiquid. That's just stuff I've read online. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
So the reminder is, don't trust exchanges.
Right. If you're using an exchange to buy crypto, take it from that exchange immediately and send it to your own wallet. Preferably a hardware wallet, but any wallet is better than an exchange wallet.
Yeah, hardware wallet for sure. Cardano Over Coffee Linktree has links to purchase hardware wallets if you're looking for a place. They are affiliate links, so you will help support the show. I need to know from Epoch how much money he has lost at that exchange, because he's lost money at every exchange so far this year.
Don't make him relive that. That ain't right, man. Come on.
Am I the only one that still uses Bittrex?
Yep.
I still use Bittrex. That's why I got my first set of ADA.
I still use
Me
Bittrex.
too. Okay, cool. Yay.
Okay, you're not. Fine. I don't use it. So I'm the only one not using Bittrex.
I think only OGs use Bittrex. Blockjock's still kind of new. He hasn't got his wings yet.
I'm only 2 years in, so I'm new.
Okay, since Epoch is dodging the question, and
What
Karma
was
is
it? Sorry,
coming up here.
I missed the question. What was the question?
My
Okay.
question was, you've lost money in almost every exchange shutting down this year. How much have you lost this time?
None, because FTX doesn't allow you to create like simple US accounts. They have like FTX,
Thank
similar
God.
to how Binance has it separated, where there's like Binance International and then Binance US. So they were doing something similar, but I don't touch Binance Global, so I don't touch FTX Global. But
Good for you.
Bitrex has servers on US soil. That's why I like Bitrex. So if some shady shit happens, I know where to go and who to find.
Slim Shady. Well, thank you for that. That little Epoch Minute was brought to you by Rare Evil, coming next year.
Did you say evil
Is it
or
next
Evo?
year or 2020?
2023. Wait, it's
I thought they were.
2024?
I think they were
Okay.
like debating whether to do 2023 or
They
2024,
better
whatever
do it in
they do.
2023. Tell them that's what I'm advertising, so that's when they have to do it.
Okay.
Light, are you saying rare evil or rare evil?
Hands,
Which one?
hands, people.
Rare Evil, EVO.
Okay.
But let's go to
Okay.
the
Just
hand. I have a
trying to make sure.
question for Karma. Since I hope you heard the Hashki bit. In light of the Hashki bit, the Hashki minute, Karma, what's the difference between an idiot and a fool?
You should just let him answer first with this again.
Respect the hands, Quasar.
There's so much to unpack in this conversation. Where do I start? Lido, what was your question?
What's the difference between an idiot and a fool?
One letter.
Carry on. Good morning, sir.
What kind of answer is that? That's not even. Is that one letter?
Karma,
I thought it was one of the
I'm
No, it
sorry,
has
Chris,
something
but
like idiots
I
here.
can spell this shit out, but I'm pretty sure there's.
It only makes sense to Karma.
he doesn't know his alphabet, so maybe we shouldn't listen to what he has to say.
Exactly. No, the number of letters is one different. That's what I was trying to say. Gosh, I need more coffee.
The number of
The
letters.
characters.
Okay. Makes sense.
Now he's involving
Now
math.
there's math involved. I'm done. So yeah, let's talk about Bitrex for just a second, if I could. That's kind of originally why I raised my hand, and also to say hello and good morning. And I'm curious about current coffee trends, including Cardano Over Coffee. I need to get my hands on some. I have a new cruelty device here for making coffee, and I need some of that. But anyway,
Please follow the link tree,
I'm going to
sir.
follow the link tree. Thank you, Hero. I'm appreciative of that on good old election day. But no, Bitrex. So I've been a loyal Epoch. I've been a loyal Bitrex guy since 2017. My LLC is actually set up in 2017 to have a business account with them, which gets a little different treatment or whatever. You know all about that. So I was loyal, completely loyal to Bitrex for years and years, and that ended about 3 weeks ago. I no longer will do business with them. But that's just a personal decision on my part as a business owner. I cannot support what they stand for. Their ADA wallet was offline for 12 days, and they wouldn't actually longer than that. They wouldn't do anything about it, and they wouldn't let me help them, and they didn't want my advice, and they didn't want anything. Yeah, it was a situation where a couple people I had referred to Bitrex to use them for fiat on and off ramp got really screwed, and they came to me and said, "Hey, Karma, you recommended these guys 3 years ago. What the fuck? Like, you're on the hook for this. We're losing money." And I felt personally betrayed by Bitrex, so I kind of took my business elsewhere. Again, personal decision. I'm not saying they're awful.
Listen,
But,
Karma, I want to inject my opinion. Right now.
just-
If you recommended something to me 3 years ago, I would not hold you for
I
it
know,
because
but these are people.
that's kind of fucking
Well, that's
stupid.
nice of you, man. And I tend to view things the same way when I absolutely think I'm responsible, but for my own decisions, and I think everybody should be. But these were people that are so uncrypto they just relied on me for everything from a mouse click to a, I mean, it was painful. And, you can say, well, you shouldn't associate yourself with those people. That's easy to say, right? When I was getting started, these were friends and family kind of situations. So I just felt bad, and I felt like they burned me. So I did move over to Kraken. I never thought in a million years I'd be a Kraken fan.
Oh my
But
God.
I literally have gone over to the dark side, and I actually love it. The liquidity is higher.
Wow.
Dude,
It's insane.
do they even have a fiat
Yeah,
on-ramp?
100%.
They were USDT transfer only.
Kraken's
Dude,
awesome.
Kraken, Joker's right. Kraken is the real deal, I'm telling you. And I don't want to champion any of these guys because they're all shady. But, and I've openly said that for years. Like, they're all bookies. Just look at them.
I thought you were gonna say KuCoin for a second.
But no, it had to be a U.S.
God.
entity. So my choices are limited, and I'm not going to use CoinDeface. Yes, it's CoinDeface. They deface coins. So I won't use CoinDeface. So if you're in the U.S. and you insist on U.S. servers, there's really, to Epoch's point, Bittrex was the answer for me for years, and then I just had to jump ship. But it was painful.
For what it's worth, Karma, I feel for you. I definitely, at one point in time when I was testing like all of the different exchanges, so what Hero was referencing was I had money in a bunch of exchanges. I actually like deposited Bitcoin in a bunch of places to test it, and one of the solutions that was actually working well at the time was Celsius. So actually, there was a brief period of time where I recommended Celsius to a few people, and they set up accounts and whatnot, and now they can't access their funds, and now they're not happy with
I'm
me.
there too. I did that too.
So
And then I forgot to tell them, like, oh, don't do it anymore. You just kind of carry on, and right?
and I told them when I moved my funds, I said, hey, I'm moving my shit out of there, but they didn't. So
yeah, it's like,
anyway, I feel for you, man. It's a tough.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it is, right? And we try to help these people, and sometimes it comes back to bite you directly in the ass.
Now let me tell you the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
I manage my uncle's crypto for him, right? I simply keep it in a hardware wallet. I don't do anything with it. But his Bitcoin was on Celsius. I moved it like a week before they went and did their shit. Thank God, because I'd have had to pay him back. I'd have felt so bad.
You have a unique gift for timing. Okay.
I literally manage it and put it in there for him, right? He said, do whatever you want with it. Earn me some extra money if you can. Okay. And luckily I moved his, but they got 1,800 of mine. So not 1,800 Bitcoin, 1,800 US dollars, which is probably like 12 now. So haha, I got them, didn't I?
It's funny also that you and me have basically the same amount in Celsius for some reason. So we both say, we didn't get wrecked at least.
Epoch, let's start an exchange and call it Fahrenheit. Are you with me or not? Fahrenheit. The answer to Celsius.
No, Fahrenheit's a terrible name.
I
would go with Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Too many.
Let's go Kelvin. Yes.
Yeah. Busy guy's had his hand up down there.
I think I've developed dementia, but I think I remember what I was going to say. Now, do you guys remember the exchange Cryptopia? Yeah, that was fun. Just getting into crypto and just kind of feeling my way through. And Cryptopia was like my number one exchange because you could trade Doge as a pair. So I was like trading Doge at the time. Had no value, but I could trade it. and then it crashed.
You probably own a lot of Hosky, huh?
Yeah, right. It got hacked. I lost 2 Bitcoin. Now at the time, Bitcoin was probably around, I don't know, $1,500 or something. But still, I'm very sad. It's still with the liquidators even today. It's liquidators' 7th report in state of affairs. I don't know if people are ever going to get their money back.
You never know. Look at Mt. Gox.
Yeah, exactly what I was about to say. Blackjack.
Why? Are they finally getting their money back? I've only heard that for the last 6 years.
They did.
Apparently, yeah.
They paid it up.
Yeah.
What? Not 1-to-1. I think there was I think they got 36% of the original value.
My old Bitcoin wallet. I might have some in there.
You need to go look.
Well, you gotta go look.
No, I was after the Mount Gox time, so no refund for me.
The exchange that still pisses me off is COSS. I don't know if anyone here ever saw that, COSS. They've rebranded like 6 times. I'm pretty sure like their exit scam is just to keep changing their exchange and forcing everybody to move, and every time just people don't move, right? So I've had to like every year or so find the new website that they're using, get my tokens moved, and then they don't validate the tokens that are there. And it's some exchange that's based out of Singapore. So take that for what it's worth.
Where
but
was the risk
fuck those
management in
guys.
using that place? Tell me where the risk management was.
So this is a special time here. This was like 2017, 2018. Bitcoin had done well, and I was like, you know what? I have all this Bitcoin that did really well. I'm going to get rid of some of this Bitcoin, and I'm going to distribute it to like n number of like risky bets. So I very blindly put in a bunch of money into like 10 random things. And that was not a smart Epoch move. I can tell you that right now, that
Well,
one
hold
Bitcoin
on.
that I put in there is worth nothing.
Did you learn a lesson?
Yeah, don't invest in companies in Singapore.
Can you put a price on learning a lesson? Yes, 1 Bitcoin.
Yes, exactly.
You
It cost me
absolutely
1
can.
Bitcoin. It's exactly how much it cost.
Yeah, my brother took
Shocked.
somebody owed him 15 grand back in 2012, and he could only pay him in Bitcoin. And my brother's like, yeah, sure. And he has an old stock in a wallet that he says, I know I have the seed phrase written somewhere, but he doesn't know where. So it's
Oh my
pretty
gosh.
sad. Yeah.
Hopefully someday he
He
comes.
has over
across that secret.
1,000 Bitcoin stuck in there.
That's
So
a typical story.
Does he? No way. If I had 1,000 Bitcoin somewhere, I would not stop looking for
right?
those keys.
My house would have been
Come
tore
on.
apart. Like from
I would have
everything would have been moved.
destroyed everything.
Everything.
I know. It's pretty sad. Like he has like all this cell phone. He's like, and I know I kept it. He's like, where I should have not kept it. He said, I wrote down the seed phrase on a notepad on my phone. And just, he has all his phones collected in there because he doesn't remember where, and he's trying to crack through them. Yeah, it's a sad story.
I do the same thing. I have a pile of phones that like I keep just in case I need to like find some shit. But if I have no power cords for those phones, like it's gonna be a disaster if I need them.
Dude, you get an address book and you write it down, and then you put it into a fire safe box. I mean, come on. Or you use one of those copper seed phrase things, and then you put it in a fire safe box. You guys with your phones are crazy.
So
I tend
right
to
under the bed?
I put it on my
Come
skin
on.
and I just leave it for later.
Please don't do what these guys are doing. Get yourself a hardware wallet and then take your seed phrase and secure it properly. I've never lost a seed phrase. That's one thing I can honestly be proud of. Like even like my old trust wallet and shit from like early 2017, 28, I still have those seed phrases.
Yep. You got to keep writing them down too as you add new ones. If you start adding new ones, I've
And
slowed
then you
down
got to make a
dramatically,
copy because you got to take one to your second location. So like don't forget that because then the first location burns down and you're screwed.
Oh, I have like a happy story. So like when Dadless came out with Paper Wallet, you know, when Cardano came out with their Paper Wallet, it was wonderful. And you know, everyone tries it once, right? Because multiple different projects came out with paper wallets. So I found a bunch of them, like just what Hero had just said. Like I have paperwork that goes all the way back to 2017, and like in a folder, in another folder, in a binder, you know, under a desk.
In a box in the corner.
Yeah. So after my whole like tax debacle, I'm like, let's see. It's almost like equivalent to like going through your sofa looking for change. I'm like going and I'm like scratching off all these paper wallets if there's anything. And I found some ADA. I found some other tokens. It was pretty fun actually.
Oh,
It's a random SPO question. Um, Have anybody tried to build 1.35.4 and done it successfully from
Epoch said
source?
he was going to, but I don't know if that he did or not. I've been holding off.
If you build it from source and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you are blessed this morning, and hit me in the DM if you
What
don't
did you
get any
say?
errors.
Build from
We're
source?
we're blessed.
Yes.
That's all I heard.
Yeah, build 1.35 point source. I'm getting this weird error about couldn't find Cardano API
Well, that's because
1.35.4.
Cardano doesn't get APIs until after they get NFTs.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if something's changing with those binaries now, but anyways, when you build from source and it works for you, let me know. I just tried building from source this
You're on
morning and it wouldn't
testnet,
do
right?
it.
You're on testnet.
Well, I'm not on anything right now. I built from source and I stage it before I deployed them. But yeah, I'm just trying to build the thing at the moment. Um, ooh, what is this? What is this function? I remember this thing. It used to give me a nightmare. What is this equation thing?
Well, you'll get to ask him because he's part of Platonic Systems, which is our guest at 10:35. So you hold that question for another
Oh, that's why it's coming up. That's
30
perfect. I just read it bio. Okay, yep,
7
that makes
minutes.
sense.
But so if you're here from, I know you guys have a couple people here, so please feel free to request and we'll bring you up. We'll get started with you here in a couple minutes. With that being said, I'm just going to kind of let Lido do the Lido minute, and then Epoch's going to do the mid roll, and then I'm going to tell you about some worthless stuff, and then we'll talk to our amazing guests.
This is your Lido Minute with Cardano Over Coffee. This week in Catalyst was still on pause, so we're still being encouraged to take a deep look inside and reflect on how Catalyst was for you, what you could do better, not what other people could do better, right? Just introspective, inward introspection. They still haven't announced the kickoff of Fund 10 yet, but that is still coming. Something that happened yesterday. If you were a funded proposal and you completed the proof of life and you did the statement of milestones for those that were required, you should have gotten your first payment yesterday. If you have not received that, you can email catalyst@iohk.io. My name is Darlington, your favorite code dreamer at enlightennation.com, where we provide hype-free blockchain education in plain English, Kiswahili, and Espanol. We don't just cover Cardano, we also cover Ethereum. And yesterday, we wrote our first Avalanche article. That was fun. That's been your Lido Minute. To you, Epoch.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep.
Great. This is an excellent day to remember to get your funds off of exchanges, particularly the FTX one. If you have funds there, there's rumors of insolvency and issues with withdrawals, and that doesn't sound like fun. So, consider self-custody when you buy ADA. You can move your funds to a private wallet from that exchange, and you can then safeguard them and get rewards by staking to a pool, by delegating to a stake pool, rather. So I hope everybody will take our recommendation and get your ADA off of exchanges. And if you're looking for pools to delegate to, we have a few pools up here. So Lido, Hero, Epoch are 3 pools that you can delegate to. Jenny has a secret pool. You won't get any of those profits, so don't stake there. But other than that, that's the key message. ADA off of exchanges, and enjoy your self-custody and your ADA rewards that happen as a part of decentralization. And there's no way that's going to stop flowing. Cheers.
So good.
And my worthless thing to tell you about is that I'm giving away that Hosky up top NFT, which the floor is some stupid amount. It's not zero. I don't get it. I'm gonna go list all my NFTs for floor like as low as JPEG will allow me. I'm sick of this not zero pig. But anyhow, enter that giveaway. I'm giving it away right after the show. Quasar, you get to talk, and then we're gonna roll into our guests. So please don't make it something we're going to talk about for 45 minutes. Love you.
Nope. We're going to talk about it for about 45 years. Lido mentioned introspections. That's the cool down for IOG's part of Catalyst for the community. We can do some retrospections, which we've been doing during the circle debate. So that's what I'd like to say. That's the Quasar quickie.
Thank you, Quasar. So I'm going to actually leave this next guest up to Lido and Epoch because we all know that Hero Pool is definitely not a developer, and Platonic Systems are all about developing stuff. So, Lido, if you kind of want to, do the thing, do the thing.
Do the thing. Let's give a warm round of emojis to the Platonic crew. Let the emojis rip. Let it fly. Woo woo! Welcome, crew. Why don't you go ahead and introduce us to who you are and how you came to be in Cardano?
Hey, everybody. My name is Isaac, and I run Platonic Systems. We were a Haskell shop before we were a Cardano shop, and Cardano kind of broke down our door when we opened it, just because we put a sign outside that said, "We have Haskell." And apparently that's all it takes to become a Cardano developer these days.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
welcome again.
Yeah. This is my first time on a Twitter space, so not totally sure how to kick it off. Is it something I can answer for you guys?
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe how you got involved? Like, how did you even advertise to anybody? Like, how did you find Cardano? Just maybe some background, what you did before you got involved in Cardano with the company.
Oh, sure. So, like I said, Platonic Systems is a functional programming shop first and foremost. Functional programming is not the mainstream programming paradigm. It's a different paradigm oriented around expressions and higher math and some of these types of concepts that the mainstream kind of has shunned for a long time there. And Cardano is, of course, built using pure FP. And actually, Cardano is one of those examples of a really successful FP project in my mind. The way they're going about doing things like formal verification of the Cardano node and the consensus algorithm really speaks to me, because I'm interested in software quality, and that's really how you go about producing, the absolute highest quality possible. Or rather, it's how you produce the highest certainty of the highest quality possible, if I can be a little bit more precise. So, for me, I came to functional programming from object orientation. We can get pretty technical on that if you want, but you probably don't.
Well, I don't know. There's some technical people here, so you can speak their language, that's for sure.
Let's keep going. We can keep it relatively broad stroke. And one thing, if we do say, if you did say something pertinent to the crypto crew, I might ask you to define it. But otherwise, just let it rip.
Oh, no problem at all. Okay, so I came to functional programming because I was getting frustrated with bugs and security holes and various other things that were plaguing my career. And I found that FP was sort of the answer to this, or at least it's the best answer we have. It also is something that, at least for me, is a little bit of a spiritual thing. I view there to be this Platonic realm of forms that are abstractions kind of given outside of space and time, and functional programming is right now the best way to leverage those types of ideas in industry, these ideas that kind of come from outside of us, from mathematics. So that drove me in this direction. We actually started out as a company doing work for supply chain and supply chain risk management. We've done work in energy sector and legal software as well. And we didn't actually advertise anything to do with Cardano. Cardano kind of came to us, not the other way around. We were, writing this type of software, and Cardano had a huge thirst for Haskell programming and functional programmers in general that was not sated. And so ultimately, the most advertising we did was we were doing advertising around, hey, are you sick of software hassles? Well, come try Haskell. And Cardano people just sort of showed up. And since then, I've kind of gotten into it. I've been interested in some blockchain things before, but it was sort of more, tertiary for me. It was a bit of a hobby, kind of, if I can be totally honest, more in the realm of like small time gambling. And now it's representing a huge portion of my business and taken over a lot of my life and my thinking. So now I'm pretty damn on board.
What is
Super
tertiary?
cool.
I'm gonna. I love asking devs definition questions because,
So that's a very good one. I use that word all the time. I don't think I've even ever defined it myself. Go ahead.
So tertiary just means third. So secondary is 2, tertiary is 3. So, but when people use the word tertiary, it's people usually mean that it's an afterthought or kind of something that's not central. Like it's not only is it not the first thing on your mind, it's not even the second thing. It's the third thing. It's tertiary.
And what functional language? And you said FP was functional programming was kind of your saving grace. I know my first experience with FP was F sharp, and it was just because the algorithm I was trying to solve was really fucking annoying, and it was way easier to solve recursively. So we switched from C sharp to F sharp just for that project, and I was like, oh wow! I was like, we wrote 1/10 of the code that we wrote for the other solution, and it finished faster. So that was my first experience with functional. What was yours?
My first experience with functional programming was actually PureScript. I spent a huge chunk of my career in UI UX design and front end programming in JavaScript. And, that was sort of the space that I was coming from. I feel like there's this position by which human beings are interacting with computers. And there's a few different variants of human beings interacting with computers. The first variant that we're all most familiar with is as consumers of software, where we have a user interface and things need to be friendly and usable, right? There are others, right? There are hardware interfaces, and then there's things like programming languages and APIs or other ways humans interact with software. So, with my first love being the end user, right? I started with PureScript, and I started with PureScript actually way before PureScript was ready. Back then, I would have to message the compiler author sometimes because my code was actually correct and the compiler was wrong. It was that kind of nascent back then. Now it's actually quite nice and mature and production ready.
Nice. All right, go for it, Lido.
Cool. Well, I would be remiss not to point out some of the words that came up in your introduction. Satiation, spiritual, and thirsty. Cardano already has an association with occultic like energy. What's your experience with the occult?
So, wow, that's quite a question. I do have some interest in the occult, and I sort of don't see a really firm line between those types of energies and mathematics. There are things that are just symbols of power, and symbols of power take many, many forms. The occult definitely has the lock on quite a few symbols of power, right? And we're aware that these symbols have power, and we're not quite aware of the nature of that power in a lot of cases, right? But in mathematics, we also have symbols of power, and some of those, share overlap, like the concept of a monad. monad is a very powerful concept in functional programming and literally sort of translates to the one. There's a lot of religious and occult writings about monads as well. And, typically you don't have this type of overlap. If you look into those religious writings on monads, this is exactly what we're talking about. I do not recognize that a monad in mathematics or a monad in computer science are sufficiently distinct to qualify as different abstract entities. They're the same damn thing. It's just that if you're doing FP, you're writing in terms of monads, and if you're writing C#, you're not.
Wow, super cool. I will save my follow-up for monads later. And then before we get to the hand, just why did you want to come on the show? Did you have any particular thing to share, any particular agenda?
I come to you guys today without having much of an agenda. If I'm being perfectly frank, Platonic Systems has been doing a lot of good work in the darkness in Cardano, and I really want us to be in the light and to be something that the community is more aware of. So I'm really here just to get some exposure and to talk to you guys and maybe answer some questions and maybe drop a little wisdom on you.
Super cool. Well, we'll get to the hand. The energy is just like making the hair on my skin stand right now. I just hear going from the darkness, coming into the light, and it's making me think of things like, could Cardano be the first cult that lives in the light? Because typically, these cultists. Okay, I'm being weird. Riley, go ahead, please.
Yeah. And I won't be asking any cult questions today. More specific to something I think a lot of people have heard of called zero knowledge proofs, and specifically some of the work that Platonic Systems is doing around Orbis. I was wondering if you could kind of state, and maybe it's already in the white paper. The white paper is quite long. I kind of skimmed through it, but what curves are you guys leveraging? And sort of the other question, I guess, around that would be, how open source is the tooling going to be for like OSL? I do have a second question, but that's kind of a good stopping point for the first question.
I'm not the right person to ask for that one. I'm not contributing code to the Orbis project. I'm just sort of helping to manage it. We're very, very proud of the Orbis project. That's, I think, I think that's actually the coolest project we've ever had. The zero knowledge proofs are an incredibly powerful technique. However, I would also say that the people who really understand them are probably less than 20 in the world right now. And so to answer questions about what types of curves are we using or these types of things, it's just not a question for me.
Okay, no worries. I think that my next question might be better suited, but I seem to have lost it in the middle of you answering that one.
Riley.
So I'll raise my hand in a second.
Yeah, Morgan is coming up. Okay, there he is. Go ahead.
So the question was around what curves are we using on Orbis, and the answer is that we're not using elliptic curves, we're using Fry. And the other question was what is the open source status of OSL? It's completely open source.
Hey Morgan, I didn't know you were in the space. Wonderful to see you here.
I didn't know.
Thank you so much for bailing me out.
I was browsing Twitter and noticed this was happening. Hi.
Oh, so no worries at all. Morgan is our tech lead on the Orbis project, and very well qualified to answer that specific question.
Are you gonna add something, Epoch?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So, I know what an elliptic curve is. What is a Fry curve?
Right, and specifically, can you tie that back to the users? How does that benefit the users that are going to be using the Orbis product?
Well, okay, so Fry is a cryptographic protocol that's not based on elliptic curves at all. it's just based on hash functions. It's a hash-based Stark. And the reason that we went this way instead of using elliptic curve cryptography is that Cardano currently doesn't have any elliptic curve primitives, and so on-chain proof verification would be very difficult to do in a cost-effective manner in terms of CPU execution limits without an elliptic curve primitive. But Cardano Plutus does have it does have hash function primitives in it, which are sufficient to efficiently implement Fry verification. So that's the benefit, is on-chain proof verification.
So the fry route, and that whole um pipeline of primitives and all that fun stuff. How does that what I'm trying to ask, how try and tested, how battle tested is that branch of
Oh,
stuff?
well, Fry was invented by Ben Sasson et al., some of the top people in zero knowledge proofs. It's what Starkware is basing their current efforts on. So, yeah, confidence in Fry is about as high as it gets with these zero knowledge proof protocols. I don't think it's been formally proven correct, but very few of them have. It's also quantum secure and it doesn't have any trusted setup process. So, yeah, about as good as it gets when it comes to these things.
Excellent. That formal verification bit is the thing that was escaping me. So thanks for saying that. Before we go back to Rally to finish his question, Coffee Cup, why is your hand up?
I just want everybody to know that I'm on my third cup of coffee and I feel a lot smarter. Thank you all. Go ahead, R.
Sweet.
Yeah. Sorry, Blockjock. I do have one question,
No,
and
you're
it
good,
was the
dude.
thing I remembered. And I don't want to forget it again. It was, I guess, something Morgan might be able to answer. But do you think that with Vassal, Cardano has sufficient data availability for layer twos like Orbis to in practice, or do you see movements in this necessary forward?
Well, I think this is a bit of a hole in the whole plan for Orbis, because we do need some way to ensure data availability in order to ensure the availability of the roll-up services. But Cardano doesn't provide a mechanism that will solve this problem. It doesn't have the ability to ensure availability for the amount of data that would be required, at least, not in any obvious way. And so that's still an
Well,
unsolved problem, but we're hoping to work with Cardano to come up with a solution.
So, in just to add a little bit of color to that, is anyone aware of any blockchain in which the data availability problem has been solved? Because I'm not. As far as I can tell, data availability is not just a gap in something like Orbis, it's a gap in all blockchain right now. It's something that's going to have to get addressed as the data availability we have right now dwindles.
So
Well,
does that changes on like global state type blockchains where technically all the data is available, or is that just a completely different layer?
Well,
well,
it's that we're going to run out of memory.
Aha.
yeah, so like the Ethereum rollups have on-chain, or not on-chain data, but data that's ensured available by the Ethereum L1 protocol. So Ethereum has the ability to have a larger quantity of off-chain data, which is ensured available by the protocol without having to, take some from the throughput budget of the chain. Um, so in that respect, Ethereum is ahead of Cardano, but I don't know what the limits on the scalability of that mechanism are. Maybe somebody knows and can answer.
Well, regardless, as it stands right now, every blockchain needs to be verifiable to the Genesis block. And how you go about, improving data availability, there's a lot of sort of optimizations going on, which is sort of how I would characterize what's going on in Ethereum. There's these optimizations, but that data has to exist somewhere. At some point, you do need to be able to verify the whole chain. And as long as that's the case, and the chains only grow, at some point we're going to hit a limit. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's definitely a looming problem. And it's not just looming for Cardano.
Does checkpointing and those types of optimization, does that address some of that limitation or not really?
Well, I'd still call it an optimization. If you do checkpointing, well, you can verify to the checkpoint, right? But you need to be able to verify to Genesis to prove the validity of the entire chain. I think that's still a requirement. That's like a hard requirement to the way blockchain works conceptually.
More on that later. Yeah, that makes sense. Riley, we're gonna add something before you go to Blackjack.
Well, yeah, because I think that with Mithril, you have to have like nodes sharing that data.
Yeah, I was
they
saving
have
the Mithril comment,
right?
for
But I
after
mean,
Blackjack.
it's relevant because it's the same.
Well, it's relevant, but it could go on for like
snapshots,
another
right?
10 minutes.
That's sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. But
let's have Blackjack go, and then we'll come back to Mithril if that's okay.
There's a ton of optimizations possible. You can also take a look at like the Mina protocol. The Mina protocol seems to be doing a pretty good job thinking about this, but even they don't have a real solution. At some point, the chain is going to get long, and this needs to be something that lives forever. And so that's got to get addressed. Now, in sort of traditional computer science technologies, the amount of data storage that we need on blockchain, and sort of even the looming amount of data storage we're going to need is trivial, right? Like we represent those types of large data sets all the time. We're sitting here on Twitter, which is an accreting data set that's growing constantly and at a very high pace. So is it possible to address this type of a problem? Absolutely. I just don't think that we've addressed it in a decentralized way yet. And so any questions about data availability, either we're talking about something that's an optimization, or we're talking about something that needs to be a long-term solution. And until we have the latter, I'm just not going to call this a solved problem anywhere. And the best that we're doing is making the data more available or faster to access. And I'm sorry, that's not really the data availability problem.
Neat. We definitely should get into Cardano overlay networks and stuff like that, like Mithril and Mamba. But before we do, Blackjack, what's up? Why is your hand up?
So you guys are talking about a lot about the tech limitations, blockchain as a whole. Cardano, of course, is included in that, and some of the things that, of course, are present in your mind that you're thinking about and need to be solved. And then there's the other side of that, which is the tech barrier that is happening. It obviously also seems as though that is really kind of your niche, is that you're attempting to help people that may be coming over from Ethereum and others that only understand Rust or Solidity and don't really understand Haskell and how to integrate into the layer one with Cardano. And I'm curious to speak on that a little bit, because there has been some overarching discussion amongst some of the heavyweights in Cardano that are building projects currently. Not all of them, just some of them, having to do with the tech barrier that is kind of limiting people being brought over that would bring projects that would then also bring their end users or onboard people into Cardano. And I was wondering if you could speak to that just a little bit on your efforts in that area and how you're helping in that.
Sure. So by tech barrier, you're talking about the difficulty of developing on Cardano.
Right.
And I think,
Haskell and Plutarch, V1, V2, a lot of people don't know that, and they just understand their language. And I've actually heard, a 20-year Rust guy go, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, that last, little integration. We're 80% off chain, 20% on chain, but that 20% on chain is a pain in the ass, and so,
Oh yeah. No, let's go ahead and acknowledge it's a pain in the ass. Okay. So there's a few different dimensions in which there's a barrier here. Okay. One barrier here has to do with tooling, and that the tooling on the Cardano blockchain is still fairly nascent, particularly compared to something like Ethereum, right? And as far as that goes, we're actually having a press release go out today on a project that we're open sourcing with Ardana called Hello Cardano. And Hello Cardano is an application template that's kind of a soup to nuts starter template for writing a Cardano application. So that's one way in which we're trying to help lessen that barrier. The other barrier, an aspect of this barrier, is the functional programming, right? That it's going to be in Haskell. And Haskell takes a long time to learn. Like I said, this is not the mainstream programming paradigm. It's a different paradigm. And at least, we were talking about occult things before, and I'll just, mention that. That's not something that you normally have as a conversation with engineers, right? Most things are designed, and things like FP are a combination of design and emergence, where some things, we don't get to decide. In FP, we don't get to decide what's a monad and what's not. In traditional programming, you do get to sort of decide, what types satisfy an interface or these types of, concepts. So with that, there's sort of two sides. One side is that the barrier is kind of a good thing. It's self-selecting. It means that you're going to get more dedicated people, and people who resonate with these ideas are the ones who are going to be able to cross that barrier. And so on that side, it's kind of a positive. The other side in which it's a positive has to do with security and correctness, right? When we talk about security on blockchain, it's typically conflated with game theoretic properties, as well as traditional cybersecurity, as well as correctness. And this is kind of a unique circumstance that's particularly well fitted for something like Haskell. We have a need for high security and high correctness on blockchain because it's necessarily a trustless system. There's no one to call if something goes wrong. So it really needs to be as right as it can possibly be. And we need to have as much certainty around it being right as we can possibly have, right? So if we're going to start letting in, if we have a system without this barrier, then we're going to get the same types of programming practices that plagued us on Ethereum, that results in all of these hacks, that results in all of this pain, And so on the one hand, that barrier is a good thing, but we also, need to reduce that barrier. We need people to be able to write on-chain components, and they need to be able to write them without necessarily going through the complete learning curve that's required to onboard something like Haskell and Plutarch or Plutus TX directly. So with that, we've also in the same effort that produced Plutarch, actually, a programming language was written that was written by Morgan, who's on this call, called Pluto. And Pluto, in my mind, represents the ideal in reducing the Haskell barrier. Pluto is a one-to-one human-readable representation of UPLC, of Plutus core. And by being a one-to-one representation there, you don't have the compromises in security and correctness that you have, for example, if you're writing Solidity or Rust or something else as your smart contract language. But it's also not Haskell. It's unabstract. It doesn't require the tremendous learning curve that's there. You just need to learn the kind of core Cardano Plutus commands that are available in Plutus core, and you're good to go. So that to me is the ideal there. There's a lot of effort being done right now in adding EVM support to Cardano in various ways, and at least in my mind, that's a mistake because it reduces that barrier, but it reduces that barrier in a way that explicitly allows imperative programming practices back in, which in my mind is where some of this problem comes from.
May
Am I
I
wrong there,
throw my
Morgan?
2 cents here?
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Okay, so maybe you guys have heard of Tony Hoare's $1 billion mistake. It was the concept of null in the Algol programming language, which has since been replicated over and over in many programming languages. The idea that any value of a variable could be null, and every time you use a value, if you don't check that it's null and it is null, then your program will just crash. Tony Hoare, who invented that concept, called it his billion-dollar mistake because it's at the basis of so many software bugs. I think it may have been at the basis of the recent like $500 million Binance hack, which, if that's the case, is like half of his estimate of the cost of his mistake in one go. So that's probably an underestimate, right? The billion-dollar mistake.
Oh, it's a huge
That's
underestimate. I think it's $1 trillion.
Here's what I'm getting at. If you think it's hard and expensive to get it right, try not getting it right.
That's very,
So
very fair and true.
and to that end though, so what I think is that, for me personally as an end user that doesn't write code but thinks about security being important, custody being important, right? And these are things that we enjoy over here on Cardano, which in some cases in other blockchains they do not, right? And so obviously patience is key here. But if you guys are writing things that are actually going to make it easier for developers to come over and be able to integrate into Cardano's ecosystem, but at the same time not compromise to the point where it creates a broader attack vector, right? Then ultimately I think that's really what we need. Are there more people like yourselves in other groups that are doing these things that are kind of outside of, it's not IOG, it's not, the foundation, it's not, any of this stuff, right? It's just people deciding this is a business I want to be in, and this is how I'm deciding to make my money, and is to help people integrate into Cardano, right? The project.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely other consultancies out there who, will help you out with Haskell and Plutus. It's definitely not just us. There's M Labs and Seracal and Tweeg and a whole bunch of them out there. But in terms of trying to actively reduce the barrier in this way, Pluto is our innovation, and I'm quite proud of it. The way that I see other people trying to reduce the barrier is typically by adding EVM support. And like I said, if we're going to do that and make that the method by which we reduce the barrier, then we're adding in things like the $1 trillion mistake. We're just bringing those types of things back. The disadvantage of using something like Pluto is going to be ergonomics. If you are someone trying to develop smart contracts on Cardano and don't have knowledge of Haskell and use something like Pluto, you're given all the power of Cardano without compromise. You're given the security, you're given correctness properties, but it means that you're going to have to do a lot of manual effort because we don't have abstraction there. Abstraction is really the way functional programmers produce code reuse. And it's a little bit different from abstraction for code reuse in other languages, but we don't have that. And it's specifically avoiding that lowers the barrier. But by lowering that barrier by eschewing abstraction means it's going to be less ergonomic for the engineer to use in something like Haskell. But given that they're not going to be using Haskell anyway, I think this is the right direction.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Guys.
Let's hear some new voices here, and then I think it might be good to do a round of like compare and contrast of some different concepts and ideas in the space. Before we do that, April, what's up?
Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm actually Platonic's copywriter and marketing consultant. I just wanted to say real briefly, I think Isaac may be underselling Platonic on this particular point. Platonic is actually doing a great deal, I think, to make Cardano and Haskell a lot more accessible to potential developers. They actually have started running an internship program. And I think they have like 5 or 6 people that they are mentoring right now in the developer space to become Haskell developers. I think, Isaac, I hope I'm not like overstepping my bounds here by mentioning this, but Isaac has like a Pluto to Coq project that he's got in the works that would actually like help bridge the Pluto language to Coq and help translate, you know, between the platforms. And I have to apologize because even though I write in this space, like I do not have a developer's background, and everything I know about
You're
functional
fine, April.
programming,
You're fine.
everything I know about functional programming and Haskell and blockchain, I have learned from Isaac. So yeah, I just happen to be like really good at like translating all of this into plain English. So
Well, you know, we're talking about reducing the barrier, so I wasn't going to bring that up because that's on the other side of the barrier, or at least sort of the way I view it, like Haskell's on the other side. But, you know, in general, it would be ideal if we had more people writing Haskell, right? It would be ideal if we had more people who, you know, were Haskell heavy in Cardano and able to take on some of the programming challenges that we're going to see that are really going to be in Haskell. You know, if you're needing to do something in Cardano proper, it's going to be Haskell and Nix. Those are the languages in which it's written, you know, and that's what we need. So yeah, we're currently doing a paid internship program because we're sort of treating these people as guinea pigs, and then we're going to be releasing some Haskell training that's just going to be available to everyone. I haven't found the Haskell training that's out there to be the best. There are some good, you know, I don't want to speak ill. There's definitely some very good people out there doing Haskell training right now, but we feel we have something to contribute there. And so in the coming months, we should be opening up a subscription through Zverge that will allow people to take our Haskell course and interact with a trainer and actually, you know, ask questions and these types of things. So yeah, if you want to learn Haskell, please DM and reach out. We are providing resources there as well.
Super neat. Well, for anybody in the room who is a budding developer or thinking about getting into Cardano development or might hear this recording later, can we just, from you guys, get some basic definitions of these different things that we've heard over the space for a while now? So one of them you just mentioned is Pluto. So what is that?
Okay, so basically, you know, during the Alonso era, lots of projects that were writing non-trivial smart contracts discovered around the same time that the Plutus TX compiler produced a bloated artifact. And because we didn't have Vassal yet, the smart contract needed to be attached to the UTXO. This is a pretty extreme limiting factor on our ability to deliver DeFi in Cardano that's now been, you know, greatly reduced with Vassal. But during that period of time, we went, okay, Plutus TX, which is the library put out by IOG and the Plutus the Haskell to Plutus compiler, were the only sort of approved path, or the only real path out there for taking Haskell code or just some code in general and outputting an artifact that could be used on Cardano on chain, right? So we went about trying to solve that. In that effort, Morgan developed the Pluto programming language, which, like I said, is literally just a human readable Plutus with no additional abstraction. Right? It's not it's not Haskell to Plutus. It's not Rust to Plutus. It's not something else to Plutus. It's Plutus to Plutus. It's just a human readable Plutus.
To Plutus. So it's not a DSL. Well, I guess Plutus itself is a. Go ahead.
Well, Plutus, like you can think about Plutus core like it's a compiler target. It's a non-human readable output, right? That will run directly on chain. You have to have something human readable for people to write that. So there's a few different approaches. One approach would be to take an existing programming language, like let's say Haskell or Rust, and write a transpiler that takes that input source code and outputs a Plutus artifact, right? The one that IOG produced is Plutus TX and the Haskell to Plutus compiler. So that takes some Haskell code written in Plutus TX and outputs a Plutus artifact that can be run on chain, right? Pluto is a new programming language that is as close to the Plutus that gets outputted as possible. And so by having that one-to-one representation, it's exactly what's going to get run on chain in a human readable form. And that has a lot of value both for like debugging script size and performance characteristics, as well as allowing non-Haskell engineers to write smart contracts. From that same effort, and I believe it actually started with some copy paste from Pluto. We also ended up with Plutarch. Plutarch is an EDSL inside of the Haskell programming language that provides an alternate path to going from Haskell to Plutus, right? And Plutarch shares this DNA with Pluto. The thing is that most people who are writing on Cardano right now are Haskell engineers for obvious reasons. And so if you're a Haskell engineer and you want to write smart contracts on Cardano, either using Plutus TX because your project is simple, or you're probably going to choose Plutarch because Plutarch is a Haskell EDSL, which means all of your developer tooling and understanding and things still work, right? But again, it gives you the same things that Pluto gives you, but it gives you those things in Haskell. So it achieves one of the benefits in that it's possible now to reason about script size and performance in a way that we can't with Plutus TX and the Haskell to Plutus compiler, but it doesn't realize the other benefit in that it is usable by non-Haskell engineers.
Great. I was going to ask about Plutarch, but you covered that. So excellent. So DSL stands for domain specific language. What's the E in there?
Okay, so Pluto would also be a DSL in that it's a language specific to one domain, which is Cardano smart contracts. When people say an EDSL, what they mean is an embedded domain specific language. So Plutarch is a DSL for writing Plutus smart contracts that is embedded into the Haskell programming language.
Right, and I think most people already know Haskell, functional programming language. And then what is Plutonomicon? Trying to say that 5 times is a challenge, but that comes up a lot. What is that?
So the Plutonomicon is a repo of lessons learned and best practices and things from on the ground Plutus developers. So it started as a joint project between M Labs and Platonic. I actually personally did the little graphic of the book when that thing started. And it served as a great resource. And I got to give M Labs credit for being the custodian of that resource and for being the biggest contributor to that resource.
Excellent. And this one is totally out of your domain, but just for the benefit of the room, what's Marlowe?
So Marlowe is, okay. So this barrier problem, right, is not something that we're recently aware of. This is a problem that we've been experiencing in Haskell for a long time, where it's difficult to come up to speed. IOG, of course, has been aware of this problem for a long time as well, and so Marlowe is a way of getting smart contracts by getting that Plutus artifact from a web-based interface. And so that web-based interface is written in PureScript and provides these little kind of building blocks that you can snap together. And by doing that in just kind of a visual way, you can build up a Plutus smart contract. And that's IOG's method for reducing this barrier. And it is a good method. However, Marlowe does not expose the full power of Plutus. It exposes a subset of that can be represented in this kind of a visual programming language.
Excellent. Before we switch topic, Cardano Coffee Cup, what's up?
Might be in your wheelhouse, might not be in your wheelhouse. What kind of coffee do you drink?
I am a fan of 8 o'clock. I know it's a very basic answer, but I really like 8 o'clock coffee. I buy it unground. I grind it fresh, and I cook it in a French press.
Excellent. Continue, Lido.
I miss my French press. Maybe I should pull it out. I went to this really
Grabbing mine right
sketchy.
now. There you
French
go.
press is the best damn way to make coffee that isn't Chemex, as far as I'm concerned.
It totally is, and then I got suckered into this YouTuber to buy these cups things that comes. Anyways, I digress. Oh. So one of the conversation that's been happening in Cardano right now is Cardano paths towards a modular architecture, and I know IOG had some stuff on there. Oh, what was the word that was being thrown around earlier in the day? Yella. And that's sort of that whole track line got abandoned. And now we basically have these two tracks, right? So there is the custom track of modularity, which you touched on earlier about EVM-based route and those kinds of things that ties back to ADA, not to Ouroboros. So it's not like leaning on any of the security of the layer one. It's got its own security assumptions. And then there is the IOG track with like Mithril and the Mamba stuff and that leveraging stateful operators might be a track that where we could have like a data layer type thing to help with some of the roll-up solutions and things like that.
Mhm.
Do you have any commentaries, feelings, opinions about those two worlds?
I have some homework to do before I can comment. Morgan, do you have a thought there?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What was the question?
No worries.
Well, maybe I'll just say the left side, right? How are you looking at planning for factoring the Metro and the Mamba and this leveraging Ouroboros that relies on stateful operators for some of the future work that you guys might be thinking about?
Oh, sorry, I have no idea about that. I don't work on Ouroboros.
Well. Okay.
Well,
Well,
my
maybe because
apologies. We'll bring another developer on next time for this.
no. It makes total sense. The only reason why I brought it up because Urbis specifically might eventually maybe benefit from it. I don't know. Well, so then let's go back to the company.
How about being respectful of their time and seeing if they still have time?
Well, yeah, and this is yeah. So if you have time for one more question, what I was gonna ask is Platonic Systems, right? How do you guys work? Like, what's your approach for when a new client needs to reach out to you? Things along those lines.
Okay, so if a new client wants to reach out, they just need to reach out. Typically, we start with a discovery call and try to understand their needs. I'm not out to just sell Platonic for the sake of selling Platonic. We're looking to solve problems for people and really provide a solution that fits their needs. So that's the first step, is kind of understanding where they're at and seeing in what ways we might be able to help out and whether or not it's a fit. If it's a fit, it should be unambiguous to both parties that our help is needed and makes sense for them, as well as making sense for us. One thing that we do like to do, particularly with early stage projects, is we recommend going through our Devils team. We have a team that we call the Devils Advocates, which is a group of lateral thinkers. We've got an economist in there, a professional poker player, logician, these kinds of people. And we like to take a look at the protocol and just kind of see what problems or challenges we think this protocol is going to have. We can go further than that and do a protocol level audit, which would be fantastic, but is cost prohibitive for a lot of people. But starting out by just kind of understanding their needs, taking a look at what their protocol is doing, and making sure that it kind of makes sense. We don't want to take on projects that are doomed. And so we put a lot of work into making sure that this is a project that we think has a really good chance of success before we get started.
So no metaverses. No, I'm kidding. Um,
We do not
what?
currently have any metaverse customers.
Oh, but thanks for coming on. That's pretty much our time. It's been great chatting with you. I hope more people can just hang out in spaces and stuff, just randomly, because sometimes we get into the weeds of these things, depending on the space and where you catch us. But it's great to have the team on here and have you and Morgan and April chime in there.
I'm just jumping
Any
in.
other thing for the room? Yes.
I'm just jumping in to say that anybody interested in working with Platonic can schedule one of those calls straight from the Platonic Systems website, and we also have a Twitter account and a LinkedIn account that anybody can follow. So just find
Thank you.
us.
Those are the things it said.
It's just platonic.systems. Type it in and you'll get there.
There's no
Neat.
.net. It's a .systems address.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's unique. Well, one last sending off question, if you have time for it.
Absolutely.
And that's going back to monads. Why should a regular ADA holder be excited about monads?
I'm not sure a regular ADA holder should be excited about monads. What I will say, though, is that monads are a very important and emergent concept, both in philosophy and in computer science. And if you're going to pick a blockchain that you are going to kind of go all in on, I wouldn't pick one that is written any other way.
Sounds
Excellent.
to me like that's great for an end user to
Yeah.
know. To me,
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's not
as
so
an
much.
end user that is a rogue scholar, remove the scholar part. I obviously love the fact that you guys and others are building in our ecosystem because it just makes us that much stronger, right? And just grateful for you guys to be here, and good luck going forward with everything that you guys are doing.
I guess I would say, as an end user, the thing that you should be excited about is not monads, but that there exists a blockchain that is built using real emergent abstractions, that isn't built upon assumptions and human design entirely, and that because there's something out there like that, it stands the chance of standing the test of time. Concepts like monads and monoids and these things that we deal with in functional programming are ancient and immutable and emergent. These are things that come from the universe. They don't come from us as humans. And if you're going to pick something that you want to hodl, that you think is going to be a good bet for the long term, choosing a system that's built upon sort of these immortal abstractions just has a much better chance at surviving and holding up over time and not getting hacked for like the next 100 years than something that is built upon, global mutable state and, sort of imperative programming concepts.
That is super cool and makes me really, really excited. Yes, Hero.
We got Cheddar Vox down there, but I think my IQ went up like 3 or 4 points today, just so everybody knows.
Oh, 1.5 for me, but I'm right behind you.
Go ahead, Cheddar Vox.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, thank y'all so much for this space and time and everything. Isaac is amazing, and April is amazing as well. I and Aiden are fortunate enough to be the newest guys connected to the marketing team. He's more on the sales side. I'm more on the public relations side. And this is kind of with Morgan over there in the tech side, like we're all combining in on Platonic Systems and everything with this. And I just needed to say that I had a marketing question with this, just kind of for the room. How interested are people in like continuing to have these kind of conversations? Like, IQ points raising in the morning with coffee. I mean, like, you take this concept and you could be raising IQ points every day with it. We should try to have more. I don't know. I enjoyed this conversation just being a part of it.
I totally agree with
Yeah.
Chatterbox, and then do you understand the idea behind abstracting away things? I learned that from somebody that's a 20-year Rust developer. And if you have a UI UX where you're able to abstract a variety of very complex things away, so that the end user is literally just pressing a button, then you've done your job, right? Because it makes it easy for the end user to be able to.
I think he's abstracting a vending machine.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
totally. And
That,
Chatterbox, I mean, I don't know if you come here regularly, but this is like our favorite thing to do, like to nerd out on topics like this. Sometimes we
yeah.
have to try to, like change it up, but this is awesome. Yeah, for sure.
So that's a little bit of something we can talk about later if you want to. There's a notion of abstraction that you kind of alluded to there, which is really about encapsulation, where we wrap up something complicated in something easy. Not necessarily something simple, but something easy, right? And then there's abstraction in a different sense where we sort of notice that a whole bunch of things that appear disparate are the same or that they share something in common. And so when we're talking about abstraction in this space, it means something a little bit different in that, we're saying that we have, this sort of collection of ideas and they share these things in common. And because they share these things in common, we can make these assumptions and we can get functionality from that for free and code reuse. So that's a topic for later, but maybe something we should actually discuss.
See, this is why we need to discuss these things, because obviously I was off on it. So thank you.
No. You weren't off. You were just using the nomenclature of a slightly different space.
Got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
100%. Well, thanks again for coming. Well, every Monday we actually don't have guests. That is an open space for discussion. And then one of my favorite spaces around to get into the philosophical and how the cross with some of the stuff that's happening in Cardano is the Cardano ministry. They even have a blessing that goes on before the
Sounds like a
services
cult.
start.
Not a cult.
Not a cult.
It's an interesting thing, not a cult. Yeah. No.
So if you ever see those ministry spaces up, you will have fun going in there. It's Cardano ministry. I forget the exact time.
Chad, can you get on that for me?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. We're definitely getting on the ministry this coming Sunday.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I love that space. Ooh, I'll try to make that one. I think I have a
Yeah,
pin
no,
already.
for sure. It's a rite
Now
of
this is
passage. You gotta go there.
it is a late boy, so I know how everybody's time over in Platonic Systems is more aligned with it is
Don't they
kind of
do
late.
one on the week too? Not the Sunday
I'll make
ministry, but
it work if you want me to be there.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Well, that's our show. If anybody have anything else to cap the show, that I think that was a great discussion to take us right towards the end. But
Lido, I have a
one thing I
capper.
will encourage, okay, before you get to that, if anything stood out to you today, one thing, any of the quote unquote buzzword that stood out, I've grown as a person just by spending an extra 5 minutes and looking up these things. If I hear them in a podcast or passing and it stood out to me, just even if you don't understand it, just spend 5 minutes with it and forget about it. It will come up again, right? And the more and more you hear these things, the more it will make sense to you, and the better I have been for growing in that way. So
Oh,
thanks.
it's wonderful to hear.
Okay, Blackjack, what you got? You gonna shill something now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a shill, just another show that complements ours with Subcritical. He's going to be on actually starting his show right after ours, or right at the end of this one here. And please jump over for that because Pyro and Ada Girl will be talking about me and finance. So we can talk about that a little bit as well. So anybody
I
that's
got
interested.
lots of questions. And I've been told that I don't ask tough enough questions, so I'm gonna bring the heaters today.
Hey guys, I gotta go.
Nice.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here. I can't believe I haven't done a Twitter space before. I'm definitely gonna do more of these now.
Well, don't get used to structure like ours because this is kind of unique. We've been doing it for a year and a half, so
Okay. Appreciate the
There are
word.
there are out there. I
No,
would
I'm kidding.
suggest
I'm
go to
kidding.
subs
There's
as well.
many amazing
Use schedule it.
hosts. Many amazing
Yeah,
hosts.
I am sure there's no host more amazing than you.
there isn't.
Lido.
There,
I give it to
Hero
Lido.
is the best host we have.
Hero,
It's true.
hero.
It's Lido, not Hero.
Thanks for coming, though. Thanks for coming. And
Yeah,
and
take care.
excited.
Thank you. And I'm gonna
join in the space.
I got to go, like I said, and I'll see you later. Cheers.
Cheers.
So Lido,
Yo.
anything you want to wrap up? I really do feel smarter. It's sad. Anyhow, anything you want to wrap up with?
That was what I said earlier. Pluto, Plutus, Plutarch, Monad, Marlowe. Just go read about it for 5 minutes. Pick one thing, and then that's it. And then you can forget about it.
Aiden, you had your hand up, sir. I think,
Yeah,
sir.
no, yeah. Just wanted to really say thank you for letting Platonic come out and have a nice coffee with you. Also, just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude, and really enjoyed the conversation. And if anyone has some follow-up questions or wants to learn a little bit more, wants to talk Marlowe or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a DM anytime, and we can have a nice conversation. But yeah, just wanted to say thank you for letting.
Well, you know how you can thank me. You know how you can thank me.
Absolutely.
Monday, we have like open banner day. So think about a topic that you want to discuss and bring it on Monday.
Great. I think Marlowe's a great thing to chat about. Personally, I went through the Marlowe Pioneers program, and if anyone's looking that doesn't have a development kind of background but likes to kind of solve problems, highly recommend checking out Marlowe. So yeah, if I want to go off and do that, where should I go? Do you all have should I just go through your Twitter profile?
Yeah,
The
there's
link
a
tree.
Well, we don't really do it on Monday, but we'll just plan it, right? We're gonna have Hey, Lido,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a Marlowe talk on Monday.
Hey, look at that. Marlowe
On Monday.
Monday.
Marlowe
Marlowe
Mondays.
I wonder if it would be possible to actually build a simple thing.
But why are
during
we
that time.
switching our?
Oh, you want to do
have
it
a
live?
complaint.
Fuck it.
I don't know
Do
what's
it live.
happening to our banter. Are we
we
slowly
still have
destroying our
banter.
banter day?
No, banter.
We can
No,
we can
absolutely
no.
not. How dare
we can
you, Jenny? No way.
banter.
We have
No way
we
we're
have
doing
a
the same time.
schedule. Why can't we just schedule?
Sure,
Okay.
definitely ask Block Jock the tough questions.
Rugged.